We're hanging out here at Bonnaroo 2018. I'm Julia Cunningham, and literally an icon, a legend in music, Nile Rodgers has joined me. Welcome to Bonnaroo, first of all.
Thank you.
I can't believe that this is your first time hitting Bonnaroo, and we were just talking a second ago, like Coachella, this was your first Coachella this year?
Yep.
Is there anything in particular that sort of kept you away from festivals, in a sense, here in the United States?
Because they were underpaying me. You know, I'm already a rich guy, and
well,
I mean,
literally,
properly.
There's a famous story that your famous Stratocaster has brought $1 billion worth of $3 billion. It is and plus inflation. I'll say $10 million that Nile Rodgers has brought in as a true icon in producing beyond the level of producing that is even humanly possible. How does it feel, though, to bring your project Chic, which, you know, has been celebrating its 40th anniversary last year, working on new music? Yeah. Is it different now when you look out into the crowd and see, like, generations upon generations admiring your work?
It's not different from the point of view of being a performer and being a musician. It's different sort of spiritually, because now I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. Mm-hmm. As part of the Woodstock generation, we used to believe, you know, our slogan was never trust a person over 35. So I never even thought I'd make it to 40 years old, and now I'm 65 years old, and we have, in a really weird way, we have a much bigger concert audience than we had back in the day. We've just had 3 humongous sellouts. And I think the Guinness Book of World Records just said that we had the largest we did 2.2 million at Rock in Rio last summer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the entire Olympic Village, they had cut every single Jumbotron, and they were all showing Chic.
It's amazing. There's so much of your work that has infiltrated pop culture, obviously, and even during your Coachella set, you sort of called out to people, listen, we're going to do a mega mix that you may not know that I had my hands in. These are songs that I've touched. Like, I learned sort of about disco music from Sex and the City. You know what I mean? Like, the way that we sort of, like, learn backwards in music.
Right.
When you hear your stuff, though, there is this timelessness to it in the sense that, like, oh, yeah, I made that, or I heard that, or do you still have those moments when you reflect on your catalog?
So here was the funny thing. Here was the big turning point in my life. David Bowie and I, we were trying to figure out what to do for Let's Dance, and we were searching all over. We were, you know, this is way before the internet, so we had to go to museums. We had to go to people's houses with extensive record collections. So one day he comes to my apartment, and he says, he's holding something behind his back, and he goes, "Nah, darling, I want my album to sound like this." And he shows me a picture of Chuck Berry in a red suit getting into a red Cadillac, and his hair is red with the pump coming out. And I knew, after developing a relationship with David, exactly what he meant. He didn't want a record that sounded like the 50s or anything like that. When you looked at that picture looked like it could have been taken 100 years in the future or 100 years in the past.
Right.
It was completely evergreen and timeless. It had it was not associated with any time period, even though the Cadillac, you could tell what year it was because it had the bullet, tailpipes. But it looked so completely futuristic, and I said, I got it. I know exactly what you want. You want a record that sounds like, if we recorded it, if you listen to Let's Dance today, and this is honestly with no ego, if you listen to it today, it sounds like a band recorded it this morning.
Right. Oh, it does. And let's actually talk about Let's Dance, because you also released a demo version of that song in honor of David Bowie's birthday earlier this year. This incredible, almost folk-sounding demo that we originally had heard about, and then now this remastered version that was the demo. And you guys didn't even know the drummer who was on it. You guys can't remember.
We didn't know anyone who was on it.
Tell us sort of those moments in the studio where it's like you're so caught up in the moment of something like a Let's Dance. It's a breakthrough creatively for you guys. It just steers the record. How does that even come together?
So when you're playing with musicians, especially musicians who could read music, so I'm working with jazz musicians, and so I had told David when he had come to my bedroom, he says, "Nile, darling." He always called me Nile, darling, so that's why I'm saying that. So he said, "Nile, darling, I think this record's a hit," and he actually, it wasn't a record. He said, "I think this song's a hit." So he starts playing jing, 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 let's dance. And he starts singing it, but he's singing it with confidence. So he knows the song. He had probably been working on it for some time, but the way he presented it to me was almost as if he had written it last night.
Wow.
That's how it felt. So, so my memory of it is all I could report on.
Yeah.
So it felt like he was saying, I just wrote this last night, but he was singing it with complete confidence. So when he sang it to me, I thought, well, this sounds like a folk song, and he's calling it Let's Dance, and I'm known for dance music. Yeah. So I said, so David, can I do an arrangement? And in those days, I walked around with manuscript paper all the time. So we called up the band Queen, and we booked their studio, which was right down the block. And we asked the head of the Montreux Jazz Festival to send over some studio musicians. So he sends over a guitar player, a drummer, and a bass player. And I'm sorry that I don't know their names because they just read the arrangement down. And when you hear the demo that I put out, which is hysterical, you hear typically when musicians are reading a chart for the first time, they look at the most complicated part and they practice that first so that when it comes to that part, they can sort of breeze through it. So you hear Bowie listening to the other guitar player practicing the part that I had written, and David laughs and says, man, don't worry about it. All you can do is make him, no, he says, exactly, all you can do is go wrong. And if you go wrong, I'm going to fine you 200,000, no, not 100,000. I'm going to fine you 200 francs. This is the James Brown band, because James Brown was famous for fining people in front of the audience. And he was just having the time of his life, I don't know if you've heard that, but he was so happy. And then we played it down, and you hear me scream. You think it's David screaming because he's got the open mic. But I was so happy to hear that groove, that screaming that you hear is my guitar amp picking up my microphone going,
wow, woo! And that's it. It's a hit.
Yeah.
And then that record, it took, 17 days to be made? The whole album, 17 days, which is so incredible.
And we've never touched it again.
I have such, a respect for your mind in that sense where I would, because this is also a huge return for you. This was sort of the backlash era of disco, jumping back into pop music, another second. You've had 3, 4th, 5th wins where it's just extreme excess and excitement, making music. But also, I would think in my mind, I guess my own anxiety or something, how do I create such incredible hit after hit after hit in the excess of your own success, in a sense? Is it just that music is constantly running through your mind, that you're never worried about the excess of outcome when it comes to working with new musicians?
So when it comes to composing, I'm always hearing music and writing, most of the time, stupid little ditties that are just running through my head based on what I see. Like you're dressed now, and in the setting that we're in, the camera, there's always stuff popping in my head. So every song that I've ever written has been nonfiction, or at least nonfiction based with fictional elements to make the story make sense. So I'm never at a loss for ideas. Now, that doesn't mean that they're great. It just means that they're
You've got ideas. You've got something.
So I always say that I'm not really a songwriter. I'm a song rewriter.
Right.
Because the song that I start off with is usually ridiculous, and somehow I rewrite it to the point where at least it's releasable.
And with you now, because Chic is still planning on releasing an album.
It's killer, too.
Is it? Well, tell us a little bit about it. It's called It's About Time.
Yeah.
A little play. It was going to possibly be released last year.
No, it was going to be released actually in 2014.
2014. Wow.
Yeah.
And then there's been some holdups.
Sorry, 2015. I was releasing the single 2014 to lead up to the beginning of 2015, and then a series of misfortune and events started happening over and over and over again. And then so when I totally focused on 2016, then it was really disastrous.
And that was there were some setbacks, meaning we had the loss of David Bowie, we had the loss of Prince, and you have said that you removed some songs that had been inspired by that. Did you kind of scrap everything, start fresh?
Yeah.
Where are we sort of with this body of work?
Yeah, because what happened, the way that I've always looked at albums is that albums are films and singles are trailers. So singles are the trailers that get you to go see the movie, if you will. So an album to me is a complete story with a beginning and a middle and an end about the way that I see the world at the time that I'm composing. When I decided to do this album called It's About Time, it's because I had just started a relationship with Stephen Hawking. It was a play on words. So I don't want to get too crazy and too scientific and too stupid about it, but I always talk about this thing that I call band, B-A-N-D, logic, and I always say it's never ever to be confused with actual logic.
Okay.
So the band logic that I had employed at the time was this album called It's About Time, and it was about time in the universe and time that I had left because I had just had a cancer scare, and I didn't know how long I was going to be on this planet. So it was about all of this stuff, and I decided the film that I wanted to make, the musical film, was to pay homage to all of the people who brought me to where I was at that point in my life. And of course, Bernard Edwards, David Bowie, Luther Vandross, all these people who are super, super, super important. Even Sesame Street. I mean, the Apollo and all of the stuff. And if you listen to the single that I released, every person who's ever sung on a Chic record is actually on that record. And I figured out a way with today's technology to put them in on a word and stuff like that. You know how you make a collage?
Yes, absolutely.
And even though it sounds seamless, for one word, it's Luther Vandross. For one word, it's David Lasley. For one word, it's Diva Gray. For one word, it's someone else. It's like amazing, and it's just cut and pasted together in a seamless way that every single person's on that record.
And do you have a harder time producing yourself just because you're normally the person that you're either adding to or taking away from music? You're sort of guiding the ship. Who is that for you? I mean, are you able to sort of control yourself when you're working in studio?
So now it's become a little bit easier because this album is loaded with collaborations, and I take everybody's suggestions seriously. As a matter of fact, just this morning, as I was leaving my hotel room, I had this whole list of critiques about the mix and the mastering and the whole bit, and I take it all seriously. And the night before last, I had an epiphany, and I said to this one girl whom I respect tremendously, and she's really brilliant. And finally, I said to her, and I wrote out why I thought this. I talked to her about things that she, as a very young artist, may have never thought about. I talked to her about track development. I talked to her about things that lead to certain other things. And I thought, because she's amazing, she's really incredible, she's highly opinionated, I could not believe when I got this email this morning and she said, "No, I totally agree with you. This is fantastic. It sounds like a hit to me." I couldn't believe it because she's so next level. I thought she would hate it.
No one can hate it. You're Nile Rodgers. Literally an icon.
Trust me. A lot of people hate a lot of stuff
I have 1.2 million more questions for you. They're not letting me do that. Will you come visit me in our LA studios at some point?
Of course.
Okay, please do, because I have a million more questions. But we are going to be broadcasting your set with Chic not long from now, which we're super excited about, and thank you for letting us do that.
Oh, no problem.
Now, we're so excited. And the mega mix that happens in this set is unreal.
Thank you.
It's literally unreal. We're so excited to be broadcasting that here on Jam On. Nile Rodgers, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Okay, let me tell you my stupid dream before I get off the air.
Do it.
Okay, so my stupid dream, and it's band logic, as I said, not to be confused with actual logic, is that I want, before I pass away, for every single person who's ever come to a Chic show to wind up on stage with us at some point in time when we do our finale, Good Times. You know how I invite all these people up and I try and get as many people up there as possible? That's my impossible dream.
Wow. We'll try and make that happen. At least here at Bonnaroo. There's a lot of people, and we will get them up on stage.
Cool.
Nile Rodgers, thank you so much.
Thank you.